Hello, welcome to Financial Insider Weekly. I'm your host, Michael Gray, CPA. My guest today is Emmett Carson. I was like, Emmett Carson, PhD. He worked very hard for that. He is the Chief Executive Officer for the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. The foundation has over $2 billion under management. It's enormous. And it's the center of philanthropy for Silicon Valley. It's one of the largest community foundations in the world. Emmett has written more than 100 articles about philanthropy and the nonprofit sector, joined the foundation in 2006 and led the merger of the Community Foundation of Silicon Valley with the Peninsula Community Foundation. Previously, he was the Chief Executive Officer for the Minneapolis Foundation for over 12 years. Received his bachelor's degree in economics, Phi Beta Kappa, Mom's so proud, from Morehouse College, and his master's and PhD degrees in public and international affairs from Princeton University. So this particular program is sort of an annual tradition for me, that it's intended to be shown around Thanksgiving time. That we're entering the holiday season. We're actually September 15th. Anyway, Perry Como used to make his Christmas shows during the summer, you know. They'd be out there sweating it. I think that it's appropriate, anyway, that we promote community giving as a family value throughout the year, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So again, Emmett, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So why don't you talk a little bit about the role of the Silicon Valley Community Foundation in promoting philanthropy in Silicon Valley?
Well, essentially, we work with families, nonprofit entities, and corporations to create what are known as donor-advised funds. Think of these funds as charitable accounts rather than bank accounts, but charitable accounts. People establish those accounts. They can use cash. They can use real property. They can use business interests. They establish those accounts. They receive a charitable deduction for those, for establishing that account in the year that they make the contribution. And then they can work with their family or friends or co-workers to figure out how to make the most effective impact consistent with their charitable interests in our community, but also around the world. We today have the distinction of being the largest local funder of Bay Area nonprofits in the nine-county Bay Area, and last year alone we gave gifts to 25 countries. We're the 13th largest international grant maker in the United States.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. So what it means in a sense, though, is that you've earmarked this money to be used for charity or these assets, and you can fine-tune that in making the decisions exactly how it's going to be used at a later time.
Absolutely.
And meanwhile, you get the upfront charitable deduction.
And we work with families to establish their charitable giving traditions. So we sit down with a husband, a wife, and a child. We have something called the Heart of Giving, which are a matter of cards with values, where family members get to talk about what's important to them, both the value that motivates them, whether that value is innovation, fairness, whatever that value is, along with the projects that motivate them. Is that housing? Is that disability? Is that the environment? And so people get to shape what their philanthropic passions and missions are as a family. It's a great thing to see people struggle through these concepts and little kids saying, "What does justice mean, Mom?" and the parents explaining that value. So it's everyone's values are different and everyone's interests are different.
Okay. How did you get involved in this whole charitable area? I mean, this is your whole life now, and
most of it, it's largely, as most people fall into it by accident. I thought that I would be doing research on social policy, and I found that, in fact, being involved in philanthropic work is about a social mission. except you've got some resources to try to activate that mission. So I've been fortunate to work with generous people who want to make their local community and the world a better place, and to help them think through how to do that strategically. And so I get to use my economics background because we're investing resources and managing large sums of money. I get to use my social passion about shaping how do you use money to leverage and make things better for people. So I've got one of the best jobs in the world, if not the best job in the world.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So we were talking about one of our friends, John Hopkins. John has been promoting the idea, basically, of thinking of the community or charities as one of your children when making your estate plan. Why would I want to treat the community as one of my children in this process?
Well, I think John has a brilliant idea, because we all benefit from raising our kids. We ought to think about how we raise our community, how we invest in our community. And so it's one of our children in the sense that a thriving community creates a quality of life, whether that's around arts, around safety, around the environment, around how we treat the least of those among us. And so thinking about the community is one of the kids in which you invest in its growth and its development, in the same way you think about your kids' education, you think about your grandkids and what's happening with them. Thinking about what's happening within the community in which your kids live, in which your family has benefited, is a useful philosophy to think about, what am I doing to give back to the place that enabled me to grow, that nurtures my family, and that will nurture my family perhaps over time.
Right. John talks about that we live in our community.
Yeah.
Our family lives in the community, and if our community isn't doing very well, that has an impact on our quality of life.
We don't do very well. And the community, there are a lot of things to invest in the community. So that's the wonderful thing about it, is what you invest in and will benefit the community may not be the same things I invest in. And so if each of us find that part of the community that matters to us, collectively the entire community is lifted up. So I think it's a wonderful metaphor and a wonderful idea for people to use.
Yeah. So what about, there's another author that's in the area. Have you had an opportunity to meet her? Her name is Lynn Twist?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
Fabulous
fantastic.
author.
Okay. So she wrote a great book called The Soul of Money, and I guess she's written some other books as well. And she teaches that the most important life lesson that we can teach our children is to have a healthy relationship with money. Maybe you could make some comments about that.
Well, certainly, you know, I've found over 20 years of experience that the most successful people have a challenge in thinking about money for themselves, but also the relationship of money for their children. They've earned it, they've struggled for it, and it's important to them that they want their kids to not be burdened by wealth. They want them to be secured by the wealth, but not burdened by it. So how do you have kids understand and think of wealth as a tool to benefit others, where there's not a burden on the child? How much do you give them? What's the correct amount? And starting early in that conversation about wealth and money is important. My family had a modicum of success. My daughter struggled with that because she's always been in public schools, and one time she came home and said, "Dad, Mom, you know, the kids are teasing me that we're rich." And I said, "Look, dear, you know, your mom and I may be well off, but you're poor." You haven't earned anything. So it's trying to, you know, have kids come to some understanding, and there are ways to use allowances and other things to teach kids a good, healthy use of money, where it is not a burden for them as they become older and hopefully inherit assets and resources of their parents.
Right. How can you teach values related to community to your children during your lifetime?
Yeah. One of the things, again, that we use with my daughter and that a lot of parents use is the rule of thirds. So if you have a kid who gets a regular allowance, one of the things that you can do is say, look, you've earned this money, it's yours. A third of it you get to spend. You get to go use it and get the satisfaction of having worked. A third of it that you need to save for the future and a rainy day. And a third of it, we're going to talk about who you give it away to. How do you use some of what you've earned to help somebody else? And that can be helping with pets or helping with the after school or a homeless program. But getting the child interested and involved that money has different uses and they can participate very early on in small amounts in thinking about those thirds. It's amazing to see them think about giving it away and the questions you can engage them with when you do that.
Right. How about, I think you mentioned this a little bit before, but family gift-giving councils, or basically families meeting, having meetings and talking about making donations and so forth. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your experiences with that.
Well, it's important, and really Thanksgiving is a great time because families come together, and so it's an opportunity for either the immediate family or the extended family to have a conversation about what are your philanthropic values as a family. What do you care about? What are the things that have mattered? What are the stories of philanthropy within your community, within your family? And then sit down and start to talk about the actual organizations. Talk about why you like some and what their values are. You can follow that up and go visit some of them. So it is a wonderful time to sort of come together around a date. That can, Thanksgiving in this case, and say, boy, part of this celebration, right? You go back to the tradition of the Pilgrims and helping the Indians helping the Pilgrims. It's a great time to talk about sharing and giving and what the family values are around that, and many families do that.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. John also mentioned the idea. Yeah, you can tell he's very inspirational to me.
And me as well.
Okay. So it's basically that we have enough stuff. Most of us have enough stuff. And so the idea of, in some cases, maybe replacing some of that gift giving with maybe gift giving to others in the way of donations and so forth. Can you comment a little bit about that?
Well, one of the trends that has picked up a lot of steam, quite frankly, is we all have friends who've gotten married, engaged, and they say rather than giving us things, donate to causes that we've helped identify, or make a contribution in my name. You see increasingly when someone passes away, they say rather than sending us flowers and those things, we'd like you to make a donation here. So increasingly, I think people are looking for make a gift in my name, plant a tree, do something for someone else. That's a more meaningful kind of gift, increasingly for people who have a lot of things. And I don't want to dismiss the value of giving time, because somebody said, well, writing a check, I can't write everybody the kind of check I want. I can't tell you how meaningful it has been to me personally when somebody has said, I have volunteered a day doing X in your name in recognition of something you've done. It touches you that somebody has spent an entire day helping somebody else, doing it with me in mind. That's a powerful feeling that lasts long beyond opening up the stuff and getting the stuff. So.
Okay. So let's talk about some other approaches to family giving. We can just sort of let our minds fly here. But why don't you sort of throw out a little bit, and maybe I'll throw out a little bit.
So, one of the things, and it's powerful, and I'm thinking about families and young people, volunteering at a housing shelter or food bank. We used to take my daughter and she would help dish the food. And it was a powerful thing because she never wanted for food in our household. The refrigerator was there and, a constant in and out. And so the idea for her to see people who that might be their only hot meal that day had a tremendous effect on her, and the conversations afterwards that she had helped, and why did that exist this way? Powerful example, lot of opportunities to go and be involved in that way.
Right. And, you know, there are a lot of people that, number of families that volunteer on Thanksgiving to help out at these kitchens to help serve.
Absolutely.
But, you know, they need help all year
long.
All
year long. And that's what's great about it. You don't have to do it just at Thanksgiving or the Christmas holidays, but all throughout the year these opportunities exist. The food bank, Second Harvest, another wonderful opportunity to sort the food. I mean, to understand sorting, and that those bags of groceries are going out to families to survive. It's a powerful emotion for young kids to see, for families to talk about. Also, their environmental cleanup days, right? You go out to the beach or Ana Nueva, wherever you want to go, and you pick up the trash. And again, the conversations that transform young people as a result of the experience. How did this plastic get here? You know, it has some label on it. From, you know, the things that you find, and you're perplexed as a young person that you see both the beach being spoiled. It tells you about the importance of recycling and taking care of trash appropriately, but also the sense of accomplishment, having spent a half day or a full day doing it, and you look and you say, look at all the garbage we took off, and look how beautiful it is, and isn't that important to maintain? And so it's those it's experiences, but equally important are the transformative conversations that happen on the car ride back, when you see them writing their essays in school about what they did and how they think about garbage and trash once they get back home. Of cleaning up and no, put it in the right bucket because I don't want it to be back on the beach. Right,
right. Okay. Is there maybe something else that you'd like to throw out in there? Maybe I'll throw out a few.
Well, I mean, there are a whole range. There are docents at, you know, museums and art centers and those things. So it's a wonder for older kids who have that interest. And again, volunteering at senior citizens' homes. I mean, many senior citizens unfortunately have no one interacting with them. And so just having someone come, read to them, talk to them, take an interest, that wonderful thing that happens when older adults are inspired by younger kids, and the interplay that occurs is tremendous, and it teaches that young person, that will be me one day, and how do I want to be treated, and what kind of interaction do I want to have, and a gentleness that comes from that experience. So I can name a lot, but you should name some.
Okay, well, I'll throw out a few things here. So, well, first of all, though, that one is, you know, a family may be supporting certain charitable causes. And so to go and actually participate at the church, so if you're interested in public television, you can go down and volunteer. We have people who volunteer here at Create TV. So thank you for your help, folks. But also that you can go for the Heart Association, you can go and help fundraise for them, or participate in some of their other activities, actually helping the people that they help.
Exactly.
And so on. So, so you can think about these and just let your mind fly. Now, there are community service clubs. So, for example, the JCs is all about community service, and Kiwanis and Rotary. So, so you can participate in these service clubs and participate in their projects, and bring the kids.
Bring the kids.
Right. So years ago, I was in the JCs, and we actually had some things. We were working on restoring some of the old trolley cars, the antique trolley cars, when they were building the trolley for San Jose. They haven't used them a whole lot for downtown, but they have them out at the Historical Museum. But brought my kids down. I said, someday you will be able to bring your children here and you can say, I worked on restoring this.
Yeah.
And it was just sanding wood and
Exactly. It's that
and
hands-on
doing those little things that
experience.
you could help with.
Well, and then there are a range of websites to go
Right.
to for ideas. There's onebrick.org,
Yes,
hands.org volunteer,
Right.
smart volunteer, and meetup.com. So there are a range of resources now that match people's specific skills, and we should mention that. You don't always have to do general things like painting or cleanup or those kinds of things, but you may have your own technical skill. That can be accounting, that can be finance, that can be marketing, that whatever your professional skills are, there are nonprofits that can use those skills, and you can volunteer legal expertise in the area that you have a professional expertise, and that's very valuable time for the nonprofit that otherwise can't afford to buy that time.
Right. So there are some employers actually that are encouraging employees, and they're giving them some time to say, you know, you can volunteer for one day a month or whatever,
Exactly.
and go down and help at some charity. You know, maybe it's a little bit of slow time for the company or whatever, and so you can work out an arrangement. Another is, as you said, you've got these skills or this background, and there are people that complain, you know, the country's going to hell and it has best. I mean, you can teach your values to young people, and a great way to do it, for example, is junior achievement.
Yep.
So you have the opportunity to actually go teach in the classroom and teach young people how the free enterprise system works and what the value is and what the reward that you get,
Yeah.
you know, the satisfaction of doing this sort of stuff. Not just a charitable work, but basically the satisfaction of work. So anyway...
well, you certainly, with regard to giving, you have to make it in the market system so that you can have something to give it away and something to save. So those thirds are good principles for life.
Yeah. We mentioned these websites, so folks, we mentioned some that are good, particularly for Silicon Valley. But basically, you go to the internet, go to Google, and you put volunteer in your area, you type it in, and you're going to get a list, you know, some of them of these clearinghouses, but also just of people that are looking for help.
Exactly.
So,
there's no
great
shortage
idea.
of opportunities.
No shortage of opportunities.
And for as long or as short as the person would like to make it. So.
Yeah. This is another quote I think I got from John, who probably got it from somebody else. So anyway, but it's a nice quote. People don't give money to causes, they give to people who have causes. So when you share your interests with others, then quite often you can get support for them. And I can tell you, for example, we've been very appreciative to hospice. Here in Silicon Valley, we've had parents that have needed that sort of assistance, you know, for they're dealing with the end of life. They provide great counseling service for the family and so forth. So we feel, you know, that's something that certainly deserves to be supported. I've been involved in community theater. And we need volunteers for community theater, you know, and it's something that offers something culturally to the community. So, like we said, there's no absence of or lack of things. And then, of course, if you have a passion, something, a need yourself, then maybe you might want to found your own.
Well, and there's no shortage of that as well.
Yeah.
But I would, in the first instance, encourage people toward that quote to share. People really do trust the people that they know. That's the whole premise underlying the social networking, is that your friends are some of the best reference points for restaurants or where to shop. But it's also true about volunteering. You know, if you go on your Facebook or any of your social media outlets and you say to your network, LinkedIn, and you say, hey, I'm looking for a great volunteer activity, give me some suggestions. You're going to be flooded around the things that your friends are doing, and that crowdsourcing is a great way to start because your friends probably share a lot of the same interests.
Right. And I guess I'll just throw this. We've got about 3 minutes left, so that's good. We're moving great here. There are an awful lot of kids that don't have a clue about the charitable interests of their parents. So wouldn't this be a great time to talk a little bit about the things that interest you and share that? Because you're sharing yourself and your interests with your kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think parents have to make this a deliberate part of their dialogue about their family tradition. Not simply just the parents, but, you know, look, let me tell you about great-granddad and what he really cared about and where he spent his time. And those trolley cars were something he helped work on years ago. And because he worked on that, I developed an interest in something else. And I spend my time teaching piano lessons to kids because that opened a route for me, or mentoring. And let me tell you about your mom, because your great-grandmom had heart disease. Your mom has worked on these issues. So giving that sense of history and tradition and investing back in the community as if it's one of your children is important, and passing on those legacies are very important.
That's great. Okay, Emmett, we just have a couple of minutes left. Maybe you'd like to throw out some final words of wisdom here for our viewers, or, you know, final thoughts, and maybe even talking about your foundation a little bit.
Well, I would say certainly pick one thing that you're interested in. Everybody can find one thing and start there. You can do as much of it as you want. You can pick as many areas as you want. But if you haven't picked one, pick one and make a commitment today. I'm going to do this one volunteer thing. And once you start, you won't stop. The Silicon Valley Community Foundation is certainly there to assist, to be a part of it. But we're one of a countless number of organizations trying to make this community a better place. And the engine for that is each and every individual and their family to adopt a community as one of their children, in the words of John Hopkins.
That's great. Emmett, I want to thank you so much for being my guest today.
Very enjoyable.
And I think, you know, this has just been a great topic, a great area for people to think of. So folks, share your family values, get out there, be involved in the community, find the area of interest. You know, it's easy to make these little dinky little donations, but they don't have a big impact. You know, if you focus a little more, you can have a more of an impact on the community. We'll see you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.